Horror films have kind of gone through a bit of an interesting cycle over these past couple of years. I mean, true, we're still not entirely out of the era of gory torture porn, but a lot of horror films that have been coming out recently have been kind of going more towards the supernatural. Now, it can be argued that Paranormal Activity kind of laid the groundwork for that, but it was observed most recently during, well, last fall, with the releases of films such as The Possession, Now You See Me, and to a lesser extent, Silent Hill 2. I forgot the subtitle, but yeah. And so it's just an interesting thing to notice how everybody think, oh yeah, supernatural stuff doesn't scare anybody anymore, and then now we're seeing more and more supernatural films starting to come out again, and it's kind of nice, but it's the kind of thing that's also pretty easy to screw up. With that said, let's get started with this week's episode of Romney's Reviews. Now, the first thing I noticed is that this film does boast some pretty creative visuals, especially for a film that's only presented by Guillermo del Toro and not actually directed. However, there are some points in the movie where they have some very creative imagery, but the scenes that you see some of the imagery in don't really advance the story. It's just a case of, ooh, pretty nice animatic visuals, but they don't actually add to the story whatsoever. They don't move it forward, they don't add any development. The act literally comes after a point where we've already gotten some major revelations about certain characters and certain aspects of the story that it's just, seeing it is just kind of like, okay. I mean, it's pretty, I mean, you obviously paid your animators very well, but why are you showing this us? I mean, what's the point? That's only the real major flaw I saw from a technical aspect. On the other hand, a lot of the other visuals in the film are really well put together, and they kind of build the horror in a nice, subtle way. It doesn't necessarily try to do like jump scares or do the typical, ooh, POV, you're seeing the monster's point of view sort of thing, but it kind of does it in a way that almost takes cues from Paranormal Activity. I mean, you got like, oh yeah, the girls are playing, we're seeing just kind of this nice steady shot, and what the hell is going on? And what the hell, if she's over there, then who's in there? Kind of stereotypical, I know, but the way it's executed is actually really good. So that's one compliment I can give to the visuals, as well as having some very interesting visual effects. But overall, it's eye candy. It pretty much is unapologetic eye candy, and for the most part it works. There's just some scenes they could have taken out. Now, the story, it falls to the same pitfalls that a lot of horror films fall. I mean, they've got the throwaway characters that deliver the forced exposition that are either there and then never mentioned or heard from again, or literally brought into the film to seem kind of like the a-hole only to get killed off. And it's also just the case where it kind of does the false protagonist thing a little too often. I mean, I can understand like trying to raise the stakes by having certain characters taken out of the original dynamic partway through, but really, it was almost just a case of, okay, why did you even introduce us to that character if they don't really pay off or don't really add that much? And again, it also just leads to yet another pretty eerie but pointless, pretty much pointless sort of thing, especially with even the film's setup. It's almost kind of a case where if they didn't have the setup it would have been a little bit stronger. And that's just me. I'm one of those people that you don't necessarily need to know everything in order to enjoy a horror film. And that's just me. I mean, if they kind of took out the little prologue thing, it could have been a little bit better, but not by much. If you took out that whole part but still had some of the pretty but pointless scenes, they would still be pretty but pointless. The ending, well, it's bittersweet. It could have been a lot worse, but it's also just another one of those cases where the ending just kind of doesn't make sense. It kind of tries to end it on a somewhat resolved but still ambiguous note. It tries to explain everything but doesn't at the same time. It's just kind of a case of, okay. It's like a Stephen King novel. You read it, you enjoy it, but then when you get to the ending and finish it, you're just like, wait a second, that makes no sense. I mean, why would you put a giant spider when you're a book about a clown? Could have been a lot worse, but it still kind of had the case where you're just like, why did that stuff happen exactly? I mean, granted, we got some pretty good character drama. I mean, the main characters are pretty well developed, and we get some pretty good performances from the actors, especially the child actors that had the most lines. The younger child actor, I'm kind of glad they didn't give her a lot of lines, mostly because she more or less got on my nerves. It's almost kind of a case of where if they didn't have two sisters and just had only one, it could have been, it would also have been a lot better. True, it would have made things a tad more stereotypical, but it's just a case of, yeah, you can just, it's kind of a case where the story wouldn't really miss them if the younger of the two little girls wasn't in the story. Overall, this film's just kind of meh. It's got good visuals and some genuine scares, but the story is still kind of weak. Although it's fun to watch, I would not recommend watching this movie in theaters like right away. I'd wait for it to go into the dollar theaters or the rental thing on Netflix. Basically, it's an okay film, but not worth the full ticket price. So on my personal scale, I give Mama a 3.5 out of 5. So that's it for this week's episode of Romney's Reviews. As for next week, I'll be taking a look at Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And again, sorry for any of you people who wanted me to review The Last Stand, but I'm on a new system now where I have to report to the editor-in-chief on Thursdays instead of Fridays. So yeah, if you want me to review something, you gotta be a tad quicker on the draw. I'll see y'all next week. But yeah, is it just me, or is Guillermo del Toro just drawn to films where they have reluctant mother figures? I mean, that's what we get in this film. You literally have the reluctant mother figure. Granted, we get to know her a little bit better in this one, but it's almost kind of the same exact scenario from Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Almost literally the exact same character, except whereas Don't Be Afraid of the Dark kind of has the typical, oh, I'm the reluctant mom, but I'm gonna try because I'm already like a mom, gosh darn it. This one's just like, okay, I'm literally thrown into this scenario completely out of nowhere by my boyfriend, who then just, like, granted, same character, it's just in Mama it's developed a little bit better, which is definitely a credit to the director. And now I'm getting on a bit of a tangent, so I'll just put up the end screen videos. Click here to see my previous review of Gangster Squad, and click here to go to, well, a random video. I don't know what one I'm going to put there. I'm not even going to put like a little preview clip here. Just click on that link to go on a bit of an adventure. And yeah, don't really know what else to talk about. School's kind of just started, so I'm kind of a little bit on edge. I mean, as you notice, my eyes kind of look kind of weird. My hair is a bit of a mess, mostly because I need a haircut. And yeah, I can't really think of what else to talk about on the end screen thing. I know last time I said I wouldn't really do the Yuri of Wind thing, but really, yeah. No offense intended to Yuri of Wind. I like his videos. I like his gaming mysteries, and I especially like his BS Creepypasta Storytime segment that he just started. But yeah, if you're interested, click down here, or go to one of the gaming mysteries that I like. That's one of my favorites. I know I'm probably not going to change much since I'm just a lowly YouTuber who doesn't really have much clout yet. At least, yeah, not yet. I mean, the audience is growing, but that's pretty much it. Yeah. Don't really know what else to put on the end screen. I've probably taken up enough of your time if you're still here watching this, but if you're still here watching this, well, I appreciate it. I mean, it's kind of like having someone to talk to, even though they can't necessarily talk back. I made myself sad now.